enough of my rambling. Steve, take it away.
Thanks, Cliff. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for inviting me. I am a production music composer primarily. I did write this book, writing production music for TV, and it's about writing production music for TV. A lot of you are composers and songwriters, and essentially most of what I do is instrumental music. I've dabbled in songwriting, but it's not my forte. So there is a place in production music for songwriters, but majority of it is instrumental music. So tonight we're going to be discussing scary music, horror music, and kind of what the makeup is for it, and how you would present that in a production music setting. We will talk about songs because there are some songs in the playlist that you guys have sent in, and we can discuss how that would also apply in the production music world. So first, let's talk about scary music. What is scary music? Well, first let's look at the difference between something that is scary and something that is funny, and what makes something funny, what makes something scary. So one definition of humor, what makes us laugh, is that actions happen, or you hear something, a joke or something, it's funny because it's relatable. You understand it, you have experienced it before, okay? You see a pratfall, somebody slips on a banana and falls on their bum. Okay, that's probably painful for the person who slips, but we laugh because it's something that we're all familiar with. We've slipped on a wet sidewalk or an icy sidewalk, and we know the danger of something like that. Okay, so it's kind of a cruel joke, but it's the same thing with any joke, you know, whether it's a knock joke or anything else. It's funny because it's relatable. We can understand where it came from. Okay, the polar opposite of that is scary. What makes something scary is that something happens that you've never experienced before. You're surprised by it. It's completely shocking. It takes you out of your element. And that happens on screen. You know, a person's walking in a scary movie, a person's walking through the house and they turn around and all of a sudden you see a close-up on the face of the killer. It's shocking. That would happen in real life. It would be very shocking because you weren't expecting that. The same thing can happen with music. You present music that lays a context for the events, and then boom, you zap them with something that just shakes them up. So scary music, in essence, is based on tension, and we'll talk about ways to create tension. And then the idea of horror music is to give them that shocking element, something that's just that knocks them off their feet. It's totally unexpected, takes a left turn. So let's talk a little bit about in terms of production music, the difference in writing to picture, which is like a film composer would write to picture. You have specific actions on the screen, and you're trying to set up the environment, you know, to place the setting for the music and the scary things that happen. With production music, you're not writing to picture. You're creating a generic soundtrack that will be used in something. You have no idea what it's going to be used for. So there are similarities and differences in that approach. With film scoring, the composer's watching the film. You know how to time it out. You know when the killer is going to turn the corner with a banana and stab you. In production music, you're kind of making guesses. So in production music, you more want to set the tone of the overall sound of scary music. And then you can add these other elements that make it scary, and the music editors will then place those elements in the right place in the picture. So let's, I don't know if this would be a good spot to listen to something. Okay, Cliff, I'm going to ask you to play a piece called Death Primer.
Okay, let me find that here.
Can you roll it back to the beginning? Okay, that's good. Okay, so this piece highlighted the low register for scary music, and this is really cliche. It's just low cellos and basses in octaves, and it really sets a tone. Harmonically, tension music, and tension applies to horror as well as even like a crime drama show. You're just setting up uh, a tension moment without any particular hits. You know, you're just making people feel uneasy. And so some of the techniques that you can use, like in this example of very low notes, okay, very long, um, not a lot of movement. There were some other elements, some sound design elements, which we'll talk a little bit more in a little bit. But really, you could hear this in like in any crime drama or any kind of real horror type of setting. So the harmonic considerations in horror are going to be, you're going to be using minor keys instead of major keys. Okay, a generalization is that a major key is happy. Minor keys, things are going to be sad or dramatic or scary. So you'll never find any scary music done in major keys. So that's the first thing to consider. The second thing to consider is intervals from one note to another. We'll hear in some of these examples coming up, if you have intervals that are very close together, a minor or a major second, which is like if you have a C on a piano and play a C sharp right next to it, that's a half step. Or a C to a D, that's a whole step. So if you're playing sounds that are those type of intervals, you know, they're very close, and that will add more tension because you're waiting for some kind of resolution from the note. Other intervals that work really well would be the tritone or the devil's interval. And that's a raised fourth or a flat fifth. And that sound is something that you would hear train horns use a tritone because it's very jarring and it gets your attention right away. Let me see if I can play something here. See if you can hear this. Right. Can you hear that note? Okay. All right. So here's a C, and then I'll add a C sharp to it. Okay, that's already scary. Now, depending on the instrumentation that we're using, so that was in the woodwinds. If I play in the brass, okay, that's more old school, like 50s kind of horror. Um, in those days, where they only had orchestral instruments, they didn't have electronic sounds that we're going to use today. A lot of sound design, but those things are still very effective. Here's strings. Oops. Oh, that's the wrong note. Sorry. Okay, that's still with the half step C to C sharp. Now a C to D. That's a minor third. There's the half step. And here's the devil's interval.
Can
hear
you
that
turn
on a
it
train
up,
going.
Steve?
We sure can. Thank you. How's that? Okay. So any of those crazy intervals, it's unsettling. It's not typical of your Western well-tempered scale. Very effective. So what I'd like to talk about next is how to come up with some of these intervals. Why would you choose this interval? Because if you're writing songs, you're writing a C chord and then an A minor chord and then an F chord and a G7 chord, and it's very diatonic and it sounds very nice. But with horror, there are no rules. Anything goes. If it scares you, it works. Cliff, I would like you to. Oh, I need to share my screen here. See if we can do that. I want to talk about the 12-tone row. I'm not going to share sound. Okay. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay. This is a composition technique that's very easy and it's very effective. And it's, music is mathematics, right? So you can take this 12-tone row and devise any number of permutations on it. So the first stave is a chromatic scale starting on C, going up C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, all the way up to the 12th note in a chromatic scale, which is B. It would lead to the octave, which is another C. Okay, those are your starting notes. I take these notes, put them in a hat, and randomly pick out a note and assign an order. And this is your row. And that's the second line. So I started with C, and the next note that I came up with was an F sharp. The next note was a D. Next note was a B. And it doesn't matter what octave it's in, but that's just the order of the notes. Okay. So taking that, it's just a game. Taking that, we created a piece of music here. If you would play, Cliff, Cold Fear, the quartet version.
Okay.
So this is, I'm going to just explain it while you're loading it up. So this is a quartet. It's one flute, one violin, one cello, and one bass.
Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Can't hear it yet.
Okay.
Do I need to unshare? That would be unfortunate. Okay, I can hear it. Let's stop.
Let me go back.
Okay, I want you to play the quartet version. Can you stop, Cliff?
Yep.
There's a different version. It's a marked quartet. Should be at the very bottom.
There we go.
Okay, hold on a second. All right, I really want people to see this score, so I'm gonna have to send it to you if you don't mind. We're gonna take a pause for just 1 second here.
Is anybody scared yet?
They're scared that we're gonna get this.
I can hear it.
You know, like when you dropping something for the club with a radio, boom, I got you. But like, you know, my thing is it all sound the same.
All right, Cliff. So I sent you a PDF.
Okay. Of the via email. Okay,
Yes.
so let me start it and let me go find that.
Well, scroll down. Okay, great. So it wasn't that important to actually to see the notes that were in there, but I wanted to point out that based on this 12-tone row, that whatever note you start on in the row, you're going to continue with the note that follows it, and then once you get to the end, you start over. So the notes, the rhythms, the dynamics, that's all up to you. You know, you just need to make it interesting. So, I mean, you probably listen to this and think, "Wow, this sounds like one of those weird Fellini films." Yeah, I mean, it's very unsettling because those intervals between the notes, you know, it'd be hard to discern a particular chord out of those. It's the idea is that it creates this tension between those particular intervals. If you would play a little of the other version of Cold Fear. So this version, those were just 4 instruments. The other version is a full string orchestra and some additional sound design.
Okay. Hearing it?
Yeah. So I don't know if you could discern the some of the sound design elements. Like in the very beginning, there was like this really breathy, ghosty sound. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about sound design elements. So the composition itself was, you know, weird and full of tension, but then adding those sound design elements onto it, you know, just added quite a bit more. There are so many great electronic sounds out there that you can add to these things. I started going through my sounds, and uh, we couldn't get the audio DAW through my DAW and Zoom going, but I mean that's okay, because I started going through these sounds to kind of I wanted to talk about it, and I realized we could probably spend 3 hours just auditioning sounds because there's so many amazing things. But I'm going to try to play a few things right now from my DAW, and hopefully you'll be able to get the gist of these sounds. And then we will talk about the different sound libraries that you can utilize to get these sounds. These are primarily orchestral-based instruments, and using these sound libraries is almost a must because they're performance samples. In other words, you could essentially create these sounds with your own instruments, your old sample instruments, and put them together, but they just don't sound very good. Getting these live performances, you know, by a real orchestra, you achieve things that you can't do with, you know, trying to create them yourself. So I'm just going to play a few different things from some libraries to kind of give you an idea of what the crazy stuff we've got here. Wait for my speaker to turn on. Come on. There we go. Okay, so that was some crazy string glisses. Can you hear that okay?
Yes.
Okay, you just can't do these, you know, trying to do it on your keyboard, bending the pitch and stuff. Brass. French horns. Okay, that is, you have the right of spring at your fingertips. You can't create those with sampled instruments. Okay, these are all spooky sounds, and like some of the like the brass hits and things are stuff that, you know, you've built up this tension pad, and then all of a sudden, boom, you hit them with something unpredictable, and it, you know, it adds a great effect for it. So I will mention the different types of libraries you can use. What I might do is provide Cliff a complete list of all these libraries, and you can kind of go through them and figure out if there's stuff you want to use. There's one library that, if you don't have anything else, I would recommend getting Thrill, which is made by Native Instruments. And it's part of the Contact Complete or Complete Ultimate. I can't remember which one. I bought it when it was just by itself. These are aleatoric sounds, and aleatoric music is music that is kind of made up. Generally, you instruct the players to play something wild. You kind of give them a direction. You say, go up and down, and play clusters and play. It's not written specifically. You just kind of give them a general idea of what happens. So the thing with Thrill is that it gives you two instruments to choose from, and then you've got an XY controller where you can kind of pan between the two instruments and the intensity of the instrument. So, for example, this is one instrument. Let's see if I can get it louder. Yeah, that one may not be coming through very well, I'm afraid. So let's do this. Let's take a listen to another piece of music. So Cliff, let's play a piece called "Not My Ghoul Friend."
Okay, Not My Ghoul Friend. Just a second.
And this one is heavy on sound design.
Okay, is this working?
Yeah. Good. So this one was really heavy sound design, and with a lot of these sound design libraries, you could get away with writing a cue that is 100% sound design, and nothing nothing musical. It's all about the emotion. If you can make it tense and scare people. In all of these pieces, because this is designed for production libraries, we're not writing to picture, as I said. So we have to kind of design these so that they sort of build an intensity in some way. And it allows the music editor a chance to pick a section of the music how they want to use it. And so usually, you try to build an intensity. One of the techniques you can do to build intensity is just increase the volume. You have these pads that run very low and then just get louder and louder and louder. And the quicker you get louder, the scarier it is, because it's abrupt and you're not expecting it. Let's look at a piece called Ghost in the Mirror. And this piece starts off with an ambient pad. There's some little piano tinkles. There's some choral choir, some low piano ostinato, and then there's a strong build at the end. So go ahead, let's start with this one. Notice the build, it's getting more intense. Okay, that ending was terrible, and I regretted doing that after it was done. But the rest of it was pretty awesome. So don't do that.
Yay!
Anyway, okay.
Steve,
more technique. Yes.
We do have some questions from the audience or the members that they had submitted. Would you like to do those later, or do you want to kind of pepper them in occasionally?
Let's put them off for just a little bit. I just got a couple more things I want to go through, and then we can kind of open it up to questions.
Okay, you let me know when.
Okay.
We're doing good on time.
Oh, great. Okay. Silence of the Screams, the next piece.
Okay.
This features some very high strings playing harmonics. So this is another great technique for building up tension. Okay, that's good. Oh, that was the scary breathy sound. Yeah, so you just, run that high pitch string sound all the way through it. It just adds a lot of tension. And then we're going to just do one more. Let's play The Smell of Death. And this one is a little bit more of a throwback. It's kind of a Bernard Herrmann-esque composer of Psycho and Vertigo, in that vein.
Very nice.
So let's talk about balancing between sound design and music composition. As I mentioned, you could create these horror cues with just sound design. You know, there's so many great sounds, and they are based on musical sounds, but you're not really writing a song per se. Or you can do like in this last piece we did. It was more music composition with just a few sound design elements. But we even heard in that 12-tone row, which was just musical instruments, no sound design at all. It still provoked a certain amount of tension. And granted, it was, it leans towards a certain style of writing, which is, not too common. But, Jerry Goldsmith did a lot of that kind of writing. It's, like in Planet of the Apes, there was a lot of that stark coldness, to the music when, you're writing that kind of 12 tonality. So, Cliff, I'm going to let you pass this playlist URL on to your folks here, so they can
Great.
kind of listen to this stuff in a better environment. I know this is not the best. Zoom is not the best audio environment. So briefly, I just want to talk about some of these sound libraries, and then we can open it up to questions. As I said, I was thinking about going through all these and just sharing examples, but there's just so many. So the first one I want to mention is Thrill from Native Instruments. And again, if you have the Contact Complete package, it's now included with that, and you could do tons of music just with that one library, just with that one sound. It has different patches, but it's so flexible. It's just amazing. Another one that is great, and this is an old library, Symphobia, the original one. It has great aleatoric sounds, which are clusters and glissandos. And there's one which was like a really fast pizzicato col legno, where they're hitting the strings with the back of the bow. That's a sound. I don't know if I could find it right now, but that's the sound that John Williams uses in Indiana Jones when he's running through the cave and all these spiders are falling on him. He's going and it represents the sound of the spiders. Very effective. Another instrument that's very old. This was Heaviosity's first library, which is called Evolve, and that's also in the Contact Complete package, and it has some great horror sound design elements. Some of those breathy ghost sounds that you may have heard, if you could hear them, came from that library. Just amazing stuff. Cinesamples has one called I can't even say this. Metallurgy. Did I say that right? Metallurgy.
That's it.
It's a lot. Okay. It's not a word I use on a daily basis. It's just a lot of heavy metallic sounds, like big freaking doors slamming closed. Just some amazing sounds. 8DO, the number 8 DIO. They make some pretty cool hybrid synth sounds. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with them because some of their stuff is just amazing and other stuff is like, eh. But they have two libraries for aleatoric music, Cage and Case, and that is CAGE, which is the custom aleatoric group effects, and the custom aleatoric solo effects. And as that sounds, solo meaning single instruments playing these effects. So all of these cluster and glissando sounds, we heard, they have an amazing collection of sounds with that. And those are in woodwinds, brass, and string groups. And then they also have another one called Symphonic Shadows, which is similar to the Cage and more like the Cage stuff. So it's just weird symphonic instruments playing weird effects. I'll try to put together a list of my favorite libraries and include that, so Cliff could send that out to you along with the URL to my playlist.
Great, and I'll forward that on to the members who are on tonight.
Excellent. So I think that's really all I had to cover. So if you want to open up to questions, that'd be great.
Sure. So thank you to those of you who sent in questions. So let's go over this. Elon asked, where do film and TV music editors look for songs to add to their score?
Well, they're primarily going to go through music library production companies. So there are a lot of companies that specialize in songs, songs with lyrics versus instrumental music. And then there are some libraries that only do instrumental music. So you need to get hooked up with, connected with these music libraries. I mean, you can approach music supervisors on your own, but it's kind of an uphill battle. Yeah, your best foot in the door is to go through these music libraries.
And is there a music library following up on this that kind of fits best with instrumental stuff for film like this and scary stuff and things like that?
There are tons of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could list them off, but I don't think that would be appropriate, really.
Okay. Donna, if you're there, she asks, what VSTs are most commonly used for writing film and TV? I think you kind of covered that there.
Well, for horror, yeah. In general, it's going to depend on the genre of music that you're writing. I don't do any kind of hip hop music, so I don't really own those kind of libraries. I do primarily orchestral writing, so I have a lot of the cine samples, orchestral tools, type of libraries.
Great. And then the question I had was, in terms of working with directors, what's the best way to build up to a scary scene? How far ahead should I start indicating that something scary is going to happen? And how do you do that?
Okay, so this really comes down to, the filmmaker and their vision of the scene and how they want the audience to feel. Do they want you to anticipate a scary moment, or do they want to just hit you on the back of the head, sneak up on you? I always use this example of in Jaws that there's a scene where all the families are out on the beach and the kids are frolicking and swimming in the water, and it just seems like an idyllic afternoon, and you don't even see a shark, but you hear the dun 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 dun, and the shark is there, but you never actually see it. So that was a very effective use of indicating imminent danger.
Okay. Marianne asks, what's the best way to proceed with already produced music?
Well, you want to get your music in the hands of people that can get it to music supervisors. The simplest way is music libraries, but you want to find the right ones. You want to find the ones that are pushing the kind of music that you write. And one of the techniques that you can do is, and of course, most of the production music, or production music is primarily used for reality television. Let's face it, because there's so much content that has to be filled up with music. So if you watch any reality TV show, if you watch the credits at the end, you'll often see a credit that says music provided by, and it'll list the name of a music library. And that's one of the techniques, where if you watch a show, like, I don't know, let's say if you watch the Kardashians, or a fishing show or whatever, Duck Dynasty, and you write that kind of music and you want to try to get your music in that kind of show, you want to contact the libraries that they're already using, and you can call them or send them an email and say, look, I love, I watch this show, I see that you're providing music, I write music, I think that would fit this really well. Can I submit my music to you? And that's a really good way to get going.